And for a moment, I saw desperation and fear. And I couldn't let her know that I was feeling the same thing.
Woo! All right, bravo.
This opener was way longer, much wordier, much less organized before your feedback and before workshopping it.
Talk to me about from here onward, what are you going to do with the story or as a result of the story?
3 stage side leads as soon as the presentation was over, which was great. So consulting work immediately coming from this presentation.
That's incredible.
No one was looking down. Everyone was watching.
Hey, it's Jay, and what you're about to watch is an inside look. It's a real clip from our final, what I call showcase and celebration call in week 8, the final week of my last cohort of Design My Signature Talk. This is our final celebration where I select a few volunteers along the way to present a snippet of their actual progress in view of the group, and then we chop it up again and make sense of it and make it better while the group can chime in or share their own drafts for our ideas. It's a really positive celebratory final call in week 8 that sends us off on a high. And in this video, you'll see Brian Piper deliver his brand new signature story as a reliable opener of his signature talk that we developed in the cohort. Brian is a marketing consultant and an author who works with people in higher ed. He helps them embrace AI and become more analytical and data-led. He's a really smart guy, has a lot of experience, and even experience as a breakout speaker, but he's eyeing the main stage a little bit more. He wants to get paid to speak consistently, and he wants to drive more follow-on consulting business through his public speaking. He's also been sitting on a really tricky problem for many years as a public voice. See, Brian is a skydiver, and I don't mean once in a while he skydives like once in a while my neighbor goes golfing. No, it's like part of his identity. He is that steeped in it and passionate about it and fluent in it. And he always knew that part of his identity helped differentiate him and make him him. But he hesitated to draw on any of that, this major source of the way he sees the world and who he is as a person, tying it to his speech, to his public platform overall. Today, however, Brian tells stories about skydiving everywhere, including in his speech, which you're about to watch, and also in his newsletter, as he says he's more story forward and getting a passionate response as a result. So 8 weeks after starting the cohort, you're about to see what happened when he finally cracked it and finally got out from underneath this pile of, frankly, what I would call head trash together with me and the group. Here are some of the results that Brian experienced as a result of Design My Signature Talk. Number 1, when he arrived to the cohort, he had one speech coming up that he was really focused on, and he used the material we developed to crush it. 2 amazing things happened. One as a performer and one as a business owner. As a performer, Brian says he filmed his delivery of the signature speech we built in that room, and he also attended other speakers on the same day. He said inevitably in the other talks he went to, the audience would always take out their phone, take out their laptop, but for the material he put on stage, when he watched the film back, he actually pointed the camera to the audience and he said people were fixated on him. And best of all, it wasn't because of any clever hack, it was because he was being more himself on the stage, as he could just be with this wonderful, tailored, internalized signature speech. So that's his win as a performer. But as a business owner, Brian also says he got 3 what you'd call stage side leads, people who rushed up to him in the room or shortly afterwards and hired him. By week 8 of the cohort, Brian said he had 8 different in-person talks coming up on his schedule where he had pitched and planned to deliver his signature speech. And that's what changes when you stop giving talks that could come from anyone and start giving talks that could only come from you, where you go from scrambling, what do I speak about, what materials, what am I saying and how, to giving one undeniable and very reliable signature speech. Think about signature, signing your name to it. Can you sign your name to your speech? Brian now can. So let's watch this video and hear how Brian opens his talk, listen for what makes it work, and stick around for after his delivery, and I'll break down what changed for him over time and some things I spotted that still could be better as Brian gives more speeches. All right, let's head into the call. Anyways, I'm so glad we're all here for the final, little bittersweet, final call of the 8-week experience. Thank you so much for enrolling in this program. I have said thank you several times on several calls, but I also want to say thank you before we dive into some of the material today to the folks that were, it was pretty much everybody I heard from, certainly everybody I see on this call, the folks that were willing to be vulnerable. Because one of the things I recognize is, and I don't know if you've all experienced this, if you ever hear a comedian talk or a filmmaker or whoever, yes, they get precious with their work, but they kind of have built in systems or friends to just bat ideas around, whether they're formally collaborating or they're just like, hey, is this anything? Their world really subsists on notes, or they subsist on notes. And I find that I so rarely get that level of feedback from people I trust, and maybe we all feel the same way too. So there's a degree of vulnerability that, maybe other types of creatives or communicators either seek out or just exist in a world where that's the norm. And I don't know that we have that. I certainly have lacked that in my career, prior to like taking steps consciously to fix that. And so I want to appreciate all of you for putting forth your work before it was like fully polished and ready for prime time, both to me and in view of others. I know that's no small feat, given the fact that our culture maybe doesn't reward it, or maybe we're not used to it. So I just wanted to shout you all out for that, because I was blown away by the good work I did see. But even underpinning that, the thing I was really moved by was just, hey, I want to get this right. What do you have for me, Jay? Or I'm doing the work and I know I'm in process. So your willingness to do that was incredibly rewarding for me to experience. The way I wanted to structure today's call, I tapped ahead of time 3 of our participants to share the material they've been working on. And we're going to see what we can see, celebrate the progress. Maybe there's other improvements or adjustments that these people are thinking about that I can help with or we can help with. I wanted to start with having Brian Piper go and share some of the material that you've worked on together with me and also on your own. Brian, did you have a gig recently or coming up? Was that you who told me that? Did you already deliver this version? How did it go? Let's start there. And by the
Yeah,
way, congrats on getting it out into the world.
thank you. Thank you. So I just came back from a higher ed AI conference in Charlotte, North Carolina. So I was down there Monday through Wednesday. And they gave away 400 copies of my book to all the attendees. So that was excellent.
Nice.
And I set up my 360 camera so that I could record myself and the audience reaction. And when I went back and watched it afterwards, and I paid attention to other sessions that I was in, and
Yeah.
oftentimes you look and you see people on their phones, on their laptops. During my opener and closer, no one was looking down. Everyone was watching. So that was great. That was very validating. But yeah, so let me go ahead, and I like to do this standing just because it
Cool.
focuses me a little better.
I love it.
I was 14,000 feet above the ground, hanging on to the outside of the airplane. And on top of that, I was looking back at my daughter, who was crouching in the open door, ready to jump. She turned her head and locked eyes with me. And for a moment, I saw desperation and fear. And I couldn't let her know that I was feeling the same thing. I've been jumping out of planes for more than 35 years and teaching other people to do it for 25 of those. I've jumped more than 3,000 times, and over 700 of those were with people either strapped to the front of me or with me holding on to them as they were taking their first step out of the plane. So I have dealt with people facing panic and uncertainty. But this was different. This was my baby girl. I had spent the last 18 years doing everything I could to protect her from danger and help alleviate her fears and uncertainties. And now I was watching her get ready to jump out of a plane by herself for the first time. And it was all my fault. But I knew she had all the tools she needed. Her training was comprehensive. We had reviewed and practiced all the issues she might encounter. But the ability to overcome that fear in the moment is where it all comes together. And then, with a nod and a ready, set, go, we left the plane together. And she did great because she was ready. She was prepared mentally and physically. We had taken all the little steps we needed to get her to the door. That moment of stepping into uncertainty, that is exactly where higher education finds itself today with AI. We face fear and uncertainty all the time in our lives and in our jobs, especially these days. And most of that fear comes from one thing: change. As humans, we like structure, predictability, consistency, but we all have to figure out how to deal with change, how to face these obstacles, overcome these challenges day after day in a way that keeps us moving forward. Whether it's uncertainty about taking on a new role, meeting your quarterly goals, or realizing that technology might replace parts or all of your job. Change is hard, but it is also the key to growth. I've learned something from thousands of jumps. Fear isn't the enemy. It is your launch sequence. Fear isn't a sign that you're doing the wrong thing. It's proof that what you're doing matters. You don't need to eliminate fear. You need to realign with it. And that's what happens by taking small steps. In skydiving, we don't start at the door of the plane. We start with the basics. We explain the fundamentals of the gear. We talk about what you're going to experience and how you need to react. We normalize it. We break it down into understandable and relatable components. In business and life, every little step you take forward is preparing you for that big change. Every yes you say before the leap is how you build your confidence. How do we find the courage to take that change? How do we break down our tasks into manageable parts that move us forward? That's what we're going to be talking about today.
Woo! All right, bravo. Thank you for sharing that, Brian.
Thank you.
I've seen how it's evolved over time, and I love the confidence with which you just launch us right into a story. I imagine when you get up on a stage, this is true of all of us, the difficulty will be when you start just starting versus the reaction I think a lot of us have going off in our heads and hearts is to sort of use some filler words and rely on old habits of like, I'm excited to be here and oh my gosh, and this and that. Oh, my microphone's cool. Like, so, but kudos, it's a cold open, right? And obviously a metaphorical story that you're using to start. Can you just start when we analyze this? I'm just taking furious notes here, and there's so many things I want to celebrate, but I want to put it back on you to start here. How did you internalize that material? Because that is dense. Like I joke that I think in subheaders when I script and rehearse, where I'm like I'm able to, or if you want a better analogy because it's speaking, there's the slide, then there's the notes section. And I think about what am I delivering vocally that either is on the slide, like a line or two, or is evoked by the slide if it's an image with no text. But then you don't know as the audience what's on my notes. So I have some liberties to either deliver what I'd written or bulleted there or riff or both. But I'm thinking about I need to get to these sort of handholds as I move myself forward in the talk, right? So when I rehearse, I don't have to memorize a whole giant chunk of text. Your delivery there, that could be construed as a giant chunk of text, right? There was a lot there, the story, the insights, the way you're talking to people directly about talk to me about how you internalized all that.
Yeah, so and you helped out a lot with that because the first time I delivered it, you were like, too much going on. You're trying to paint too many things into the picture. So it was like, you're at 14,000 feet and stop and let that settle in for a second. And then you're outside the plane. So that was good, like breaking down that first kind of a few sentences.
Right, like the translation job between writing to be read and writing to be heard, writing for the ear.
Exactly, absolutely. And I also had the luxury, I've got the video of this. So I had broken the video out into three like sections. So that as I timed it and I said, when she turned and looked at me was at the time in the video as she turned and looked at
Oh,
me.
so you are actually playing clips of a video behind you
Right,
silently.
right.
Powerful.
Yeah. I really broke it down as, kind of painting the initial picture of us getting ready to jump out of the door or out of the plane. And then going back to, here's the kind of perspective that I have from this, having done this for so long. And here's why this was different,
Yeah.
very personal. And then trying to make that connection between, how the instruction went, how we broke things down into little steps to make it consumable, and then using that to tie it to higher ed, um, you know,
Yep. Yep.
and AI and the change and the fear that people are experiencing.
When you start to rehearse it, are you, well, just tell me about how that went, right? Because I think you immediately said today, I'm going to stand up and deliver it because I deliver it better, which I think really does matter because, one of the things I think we can all embrace, the person who's given a speech on a physical stage to 400 people, if tasked with doing the same thing tomorrow and they've done it 500 times, they're going to be better than if it's your first time doing that, right? And so obviously in rehearsal, you can't mimic that to a T, but you can start to, I think, approximate more of those variables. And one big one that I'd encourage everybody to really consider is rehearsal time should always be standing up, because it does do something to you when all of a sudden you have to stand up and you're maybe also on a physical platform, even higher up in the room. If that's unfamiliar to you, now you're activating all these variables that you didn't plan for. My body, my movement, just the way I kind of breathe versus like when I'm kind of hunched over. So I understand just from this delivery, you like to stand up. How else do you remember rehearsing that material?
I'll read it a lot. I'll rehearse it sitting down in my mind. But anytime I speak it out loud, which I try to do as much as possible, I'll do it standing. A lot of times I will put on my sports coat and my pants and I'll do it in like whatever I'm going to present in.
Yeah.
And then I always record myself and watch it, which, as painful as it is, it helps a lot. And then after I get kind of the material down pretty solid, then I will start blocking and I'll
Yeah.
figure out the movements, which I couldn't really do here in the hotel. But
Sure.
there's set spots where I like switch from, you know,
Yeah, that was an early thing for me too. I was taught, there was a story I had about an entrepreneur that mimicked some of the argument points I was making in plain language, trying to argue for you should embrace this change I'm here to teach you, and here's a story to illuminate it. So I would just sort of retrace the beats of that argument, something I've taught to all of you. But in the story, as things get better, I was taught early on in my speaking to sort of establish early that on the stage, one side represents when things are hard or bad, one side represents when things are getting better or good. And that is useful when you're just speaking directly to the audience. And also when you tell the story, you're moving gradually across the stage. And over time, I could start to play with that, where it would be like if I was rattling off a list of three, where it was like bad, good, I could like move my hands and lean one way towards the bad side of the stage, move my hands quickly back to end like, here is the bad one, here is the good one, here is the bad two, here is the good two. And the audience didn't need to know that mentally I'd earmarked two halves of the stage for myself. But what it did for me was something really important, which was early in my speaking, I felt like a caged lion. I'm animated, I roam, I would pace back and forth with no purpose. Just by giving myself that little purpose, all of a sudden I could refocus myself on nailing the content while I was still kind of learning it, even though I was giving real speeches. And I didn't have to also carry in my head the nitty gritty of physical performance. Like it was that simple of like bad half, good half. Now I am harnessing my physicality and I can go back to learning the things that matter most first. So it sounds like you've kind of thought through or been trained to think through similar things.
yeah. So at the end, I did step right up to the edge of the stage, asking them if they were ready to make the jump. But I think that the thing that, and watching other speakers present at this event over and over and over, I just kept thinking how important blocking was. If for nothing else, then it makes you comfortable with standing still because you know you have a movement coming up. So I saw a lot of speakers who were wanderers. I saw a lot who were rockers, and it's all very distracting when you're trying to pay attention to the speech. And if you have like intentional blocking, it makes you more comfortable standing still because you know there's something coming up.
Yeah. Yeah. Brian, a couple of things I noticed that I just wanted to celebrate with you. This is my baby girl. I spent the last 18 years essentially saying you're doing the opposite for 18 years, and now you're like getting her to jump out of a plane. So important to raise the stakes. And it made me think you can actually introduce the fact. I don't know if the video flies in the face of this note, but because I didn't see you play the video, if you were to start by talking about you being in the plane, 14,000 feet up, and you having jumped out of planes for 35 years and taught others for 25 years, but this time was different than all of them because this time I was with my daughter. I think you kind of rushed past the inclusion of your daughter in this moment. And so that can, just like you drew the dichotomy of like spending 18 years doing the opposite of what you were about to do, flying in the face of your parental instinct in this moment, you can reveal that tension earlier by revealing the fact that your daughter is with you as like an isolated moment.
Excellent. I like that.
Talk to me about the need to say or the choice to say, it was my fault. Because as a parent, I was like, oh, I feel that. It's my fault. She's about to jump out of a plane. Talk to me about saying it that way, because that's certainly a choice.
Yeah, and in the original, I had more in there explaining that because she grew up around skydiving. She grew up hanging out at the drop zone, seeing people like do this all the time, and it very normalized it. Where a lot of her friends are like, "That's crazy. That's super dangerous," and she's like, "Ah, it's not that crazy." And then, as soon as she had an interest in it, I was like, "Oh, well, I can help you out with that. I can make this easier for you. I can help offset some of the cost and get the gear,
Right.
thing."
Right.
So I don't
I
know
love
how
that.
much I need to like expand on that, or if I need to expand on that, if that needs more kind of explanation around it, or if just that line is like enough. Because it did seem like several people reacted to that.
Yeah, Allison in the chat saying that line stood out to me. So
Right.
I think it is effective as currently constituted. What stories should do is create vivid enough imagery in my head that I then construct a whole world you couldn't have constructed. And I did, both a world around your moments and also my own version of them. So I think it was really well done. I want to end with a couple quick questions for you, Brian. How is this most evolved? Like, not that we can get the distinct before and after necessarily through the last 8 weeks, but how would you describe the state it was in when you first attempted it and how you were feeling about it versus the state it's in now and how you're feeling about it?
So I was a poetry major in college, so that's all about like paring it down to the most important words. And I think that this opener was way longer, much wordier, much less organized before your feedback and before workshopping it, giving it to my wife several times, and just kind of hearing it, speaking it. I was able to cut a lot of the filler words out, take some of the repetition out of there. Your framework, I think, was very helpful in trying to find those key, like, sound bites at the end. I think it's definitely evolved into a more concise, more impactful opener.
I also have personally seen how your hesitation was on the story details, but you were very open or confident in adding kind of the plain language descriptions of what you intended to do in the talk or what we in higher ed tend to do or need to do, right? Like there was a little bit more, if it was, if there's two sides to the coin, you were really flipping over one and polishing that one a lot, which was the side labeled stuff about us. And like you said, to tee this up, the thing that deserved more polish was stuff about Brian, because this is something that I want to be clear about. Like your personal stories are not about you, they are about the audience. And paradoxically, the more specific we get in our storytelling, the more we send over, call them, I was going to call them word carpenters to like construct images in their mind, but I like word workers because it feels closer to woodworkers. So all right, so we send over word workers into their brains You're now privy to my inane process in my own head of coming up with unnecessary terminology. So we send over words to construct images in their heads. Then they, the audience, are now enrolled in constructing even more images and more vivid images than we could. But to do that in an effective way, what we have to construct in their head has to be more vivid, has to be more specific. And so it's like that old paradox of being a storyteller is in the specific, we find the universal. And a lot of us are unwilling to get more specific. And there's only really two ways to do that. It's you are privy to or interview someone else for their specifics, or you just draw on your own life because you were there. You have all the specifics. And we're so hesitant to do that because, to your point, Brian, it's about me. There's ego in skydiving or whatever. No, it's not. Your stories are not about you. They are still about the thing you are here to teach. You're doing the work of a storyteller to draw from your own life and construct it in a way that implants in them the necessary specifics from your life that they carry it the rest of the way. And behind all that stuff is meaning. So I think your personal stories are more meaningful to other people because you are not positioning yourself as the hero. Cool. Brian, did that track to your experience of developing the story?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's also mirrored in my newsletter, has become much more of that as well. It is like, here's how this thing that happened in my life relates directly to things that are happening in your life. And I know Anne Hanley does that all the time in her newsletter. So
Yeah, for sure. Final question. Where do you take this? Where does this go? Both in your speaking, are you going to continue to evolve it, or around your platform? Has the story started showing up elsewhere? Talk to me about from here onward. What are you going to do with the story or as a result of the story?
So 3 stage side leads as soon as the presentation was over, which was great. So consulting work immediately coming from this presentation.
That's incredible. So to clarify for people who aren't familiar with the term, I think I've used it in the accelerator, but only a couple times. Stage side leads, meaning at the event or as a result of that event and seeing you speak, people came up to you with an inquiry. That's amazing. Congrats.
So I've got 8 more in-person events booked this year already. So I'm going to use the same opener and closer for every one of those and just keep working it and adjusting it. And I'll keep looking for opportunities for more stories like this.
I love it. Well, onward and upward, my friend. And then I guess downward because we're talking about skydiving. Oh, look at that.
We do. Everybody gets to the ground. No, we haven't ever left anyone up there.
That's true. Gravity is undefeated.
It always wins.
I like how everyone has enough of a relationship with me to just give me crap in the comments about the dad jokes. Love it. All right. Thank you, Brian.
Thanks everybody for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Oh, I love that. Congrats to Brian. I would say onward and upward, but then I'd have to give you yet another bad pun about skydiving, so I'll spare you. But let's talk about what makes all of this a big deal. When Brian joined the cohort, he had expertise. He had ideas and some stories. He'd given a smattering of talks and published plenty of written content. But he'd been holding back a source of his communication power and his value to others and originality, his ownership of his ideas, this whole world of skydiving that he's lived. And that's been this source of good ideas that he never did anything with. Why hadn't he used it? He is capable, he is smart, but really, it's the same reason a lot of us hold back or don't know how to execute: accountability and framework. By working together in an accelerator, not a course where you absorb a bunch of information, but an accelerator, we're able to focus on rapid improvement and real work on your real talk together, focusing on the things that have the most impact, not 100% of the variables, but the things that matter the most with your limited time. That's what should receive your effort. So what changed for Brian? Well, along with all the different elements that make a signature speech, we really focused and tailored the material towards his biggest needs, building his signature opener, a callback as the closer, and turning that into a signature story for him. And now he knows how to open and close and give a whole speech along the way in between that feels complete, memorable, and referable. That's what I do inside Design My Signature Talk. I don't teach you best practices in generic fashion. I work with you on your real speech, focusing on the things that matter the most to give a great talk and also give it your way. The next cohort is February 23rd. You can get $400 off with early bird pricing that ends this month. At the end of January, that goes away. This is for experts and entrepreneurs who are no stranger to sharing advice, but now you're ready for that one signature idea and signature speaking product that de-stresses you, delights the audience and the organizers who booked you, and reliably leads to follow-on opportunities, both invitations to keep speaking and also leads for your business. So if that's you, if you've been sitting on ideas or stories, scattered thinking, a mountain of material, and you know what you have to say should matter to others, but you're not sure the right way to say it or how to deliver it repeatably and in ways that get continually better, let's fix that. Let's design you your signature talk. I'll see you inside.